Aye, kuwe kuwa maduwe.
Aye, kuwe maduwe.
Aye, kuwe kuwa maduwe.
Aye, kuwe maduwe.
I'm going to shift gears a little bit. I'm curious, how has the Brotherhood of Elders Network impacted your life?
Oh, significantly. I have such a pleasure rubbing shoulders with men who look like me, who want to accomplish things together, because there's strength in numbers, and so that's how the role was played for me.
What got you interested or invested in the Brotherhood?
Actually, my wife told me about it. No. and then Joe Brooks called me and talked to me about it, and so I joined after that. Went to a few meetings and found that I was in tune with what they were talking about and wanted to do.
I hear that, okay. And just ever since then, you've just been involved and kind of seen it grow in a lot of different ways. I guess what was something that you noticed about the Brotherhood of Elders Network that may have been different from maybe other organizations or experiences that you've had thus far?
I think the intergenerational aspects of it are really useful. The notion that if you have something that you think is going to be useful to the community, that you can present it to the Brotherhood as something, as a project, and if you get there, go ahead. You're going to go ahead and do it, but you've got support along the way. I think that's unique, and that's something that we should be able to mine and to spread around the country, because as Joe says, we are the best kept secret around.
No, that's an interesting point. Do you feel like the Brotherhood of Elders Network, or particularly that type of organization, is, I guess, unique, particularly since you've been in LA and just kind of other places? Have you seen similarities in terms of that type of network, or is this really kind of more like a unicorn, if you will?
You know, I'd say that one of the other things that's really unique about the Brotherhood is that we don't have we have the capacity to communicate in a nonviolent way, you know, verbally, and I think that's showing respect for each other. Although my ideas may be so far out that others would not think that they're worthwhile. Nevertheless, I've never felt that they were being disrespected in any way. And I would say just the intergenerational avenues that we travel down is something I've not seen in any other organization. The breadth of experience and the broad scope of influence that we have, because we come from so many other disciplines, is something that is extraordinary when used.
I hear that. And just speaking to that, your discipline, just knowing so much about medicine and being in that field, how do you feel like that impacted or just kind of swayed once you got involved with the organization? Now, just having that
Not
knowledge.
much. I've not done much in the way of medical with the group. I am chairman of the technology committee, and that's purely apart from anything I'm used to. But it's been a lot of fun and work to get it going where it needed to go to. But I think that it was real fun doing it, though. You know, the work wasn't work; it was fun.
Yeah, I hear that. No, that's the best part, when work doesn't feel like work.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm curious. You spoke about the Brotherhood of Elders Network a little bit briefly earlier, but I would just like to hear a little bit more. How has the Brotherhood of Elders Network impacted your life?
I think the Brotherhood of Elders is responsible for a lot of how I understand what it means to be a man and a father. Prior to me getting involved with the Brotherhood, I knew some of the elders and the Babas just in the community. And, you know, I had somewhat of a relationship. But I think, I don't know now, let's see. So I started with the Brotherhood prior to my son being born. It's probably been easily 10 years, right? So I'm 43 now. So I think I've just learned so much about myself. I've learned through them. You know, I always tell people, growing up in Oakland, my struggle wasn't drugs. My struggle wasn't, you know, hustling. My struggle was, what does it mean to be a man? Like, not having my father, I struggle with that. I was like, what does it mean to be a man? And I think very early in the hood, you learn if you can fight, if you can hustle, if you having sex, we've like deemed those qualities of manhood.
Yeah.
Right? Which is ridiculous.
Yeah, it
right?
is.
But it was like the hood rites of passage. Right? So then I just think what the Brotherhood gave me were examples. And like I shared with you, I had Dr. Abaye, Dr. Walter Davis, also had Brother Gary Shields. Brother Gary owns God's Gym right here in Oakland, right? Went there, started training, he became my mentor. Very, very loving man to his wife, man of God. Having him, having my mentors, and then having the Brotherhood just gave me understanding of like what it means to be a man. And I got to see it from different vantage points, right? Folks from the South, folks from affluent communities, poor communities, single parent households, but they gave me healthy representations, right? Because the only representations I had before were like the streets and hip hop. Like Big Daddy Kane was like my image of like what it meant to be a man, right? Prior to Big Daddy Kane, I don't think I had even seen a man wearing a suit that was black.
Wow.
Right? Because even though my grandfather was a Muslim man, I never saw him wear a suit before. Right? So the Brotherhood has given me a lot of insight on my own journey as a man, my own journey as being a father. What does it mean to love your community? So I think it's given me a lot of foundational just understanding of who I am, which is interesting when I say foundational, and I didn't encounter these men until I was in my 30s. But I was missing those things. Yeah. I wish I had those things as a kid. Sometimes I wonder, I had this conversation with my mother, because I share with you, I enjoyed my childhood and I wouldn't change it. But sometimes I have to ask myself, if I had a dad when I was growing up, how further along would I be in my life?
Yeah.
And not that I would change anything, because I think I've done okay. Like, I appreciate my life, but I'm like, if I had a dad, like that could have just put me over the edge, you know, like it'll put me over the top, you know. So I appreciate the Brotherhood for being that, right? It's one of the reasons why I probably haven't moved from Oakland.
Wow.
Because I've wanted to move. Because I could buy land other places for way cheaper. Yeah. I've thought about moving to New York. I love New York. But when I think about being a father and the community I have here in Oakland, I feel like I'd be taking something away from my son. The connections, the information, the community that I have because of the Brotherhood, to me, that's a gift to him. It would take a lifetime to build that network somewhere else.
Yeah. Start from scratch, that's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot, right? I feel like my son's gonna be going walking through Oakland one day. It's like, oh, you brother Jason's son, huh? And he's gonna be like, damn, I can't go nowhere. Right?
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah, that's a good, yeah.
Like people watching you.
Yeah.
Right? You don't have to know them, they know you. And I feel like there's a level of love and care there.
Yeah.
Right? So I think for me it's the relationships, right? And of course, I've learned a lot, you know, in terms of my profession. But I think it's been the foundational things of just learning how to be a man, just real honest conversations, right? That they're invaluable. I think this is why I take parenting so seriously, is because we don't understand how the imprint of having a parent or not, like, lives with you. Yeah. And to have people love you and they're not your biological parents and will, like, ride for you. Like, I can remember, like, even stuff like any hard moment I've had in my life, they've been there. When I got engaged and then I broke up, they were there. Right?
Big life events.
Just there.
Yeah.
And like, man, like I remember having conversations with Baba Gregg and Baba Perkins, and it's like, they're just present, right? And they have their own kids, but they've made room for you. Yeah. Right? Like that's like, I even like Baba Perkins, like 70 plus years old, rolling on the ground, wrestling with my son. You know, yeah. It's like, this is crazy, but it's a gift. You know, like man, when people talk about black men in like a negative light, I get offended. Yeah. Because the brotherhood to me is like, yo, like I don't have that experience. Like the experience I had was not having my father. My son will always have the experience of a positive perception of black men. Mm-hmm. Like my understanding will be foreign to him. Like that to me is like I'm envious of him in a good way, you know? Yeah. So like the spectrum of black men that you get in a brotherhood is like invaluable. You know, I don't even think Oakland understands the value that they have right here in Oakland, you know, with the brotherhood. Mm-hmm. So yeah, man, the brotherhood has given me a lot. I mean, I wouldn't change it.
No, that's a beautiful thing. Yep.
I can't let go of this, Jason. You told a story once about the triad.
Oh, yeah.
And how those relationships work.
Yeah.
Maybe you can share.
Yeah. You know, so Brother Dean created the triads. My triad is Baba Ron Shaw, Baba Howard Pender Hughes. And, you know, we've been rocking together strong, you know. And it's so funny because, like, we used to do, like, annual dinners. Like, we would come together. And I think just the pandemic just kind of slowed down. We would always go to, like, what is it? The vegan spot, Jack London, or we would go to, you know, Camp Fail, and we would just hang out. But they've been instrumental, you know, talking to them about fatherhood, relationships. Baba Howard was the first person to come to my house when my son was born and held him for like 2 hours.
Wow.
2 hours, right? I know I can call Baba Ron for anything, you know. These men, they're just amazing people, right? You know, I need a letter of recommendation. I can call Baba Howard, you know, he's a professor. But I'm truly grateful for them. I've never had people in my life that have been so consistent, so loving, so nurturing. It was funny, like, I had them come to my podcast and we spent almost 2.5 hours just talking about fatherhood, talking about parenting, talking about family. And of course, we probably only, you know, edited and shared, you know, 45 minutes to an hour. but they're just a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah.
It's a wealth of knowledge and a wealth of love, you know, like their family, you know, and my son knows them, right? And it's like, I don't know how you replicate something like that. I've heard people say things like, oh, you know, y'all should replicate the Brotherhood of Elders. I think you could replicate the structure. I think it takes people really wanting to be invested to replicate something like that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. That seems real. Well, just moving on, how has the Brotherhood of Elders Network impacted your life?
That's a good one, bro. Guess I missed that in the email. Okay, so Brotherhood of Elders Network. Okay, I think for me, I have to kind of go back a little ways.
Sure.
And kind of let you know how I got introduced to the Brotherhood.
Let's go.
So there's this guy, Arnold Perkins. I call him Baba P. You know, Baba Arnold Perkins. Very astute man, very community orientated, solid guy. So in the community, some of the work that I do is with incarcerated and previously incarcerated youth. That's what we do. We call Right to Passage programs. And there was a conflict going on, and I met Arnold. I see Arnold around these meetings, but he seemed like and he is a very distinctive kind of gentleman, kind of like, he was like almost like a politician kind of guy, right? Mm-hmm. And so me still having some of my issues about who and who I belong to and where I can go, I just felt like he wasn't the kind of cat that I could approach. But something came up, and we got into the same room about some situations. And he was like, he could read my energy and my body language and my eye contact, and he called me on it. I was like, wow, this dude is pretty cool. He's pretty amazing. So after that meeting, I went to him. I said, bro, I want to talk to you a little bit more. So we started this is how I came to the Brotherhood. Mm-hmm. Him and I started to have coffee and lunch and building a relationship. And then one day, he let me know, or let me see his past, you know, and we have similar pasts. I was like, wow, dude, you mean to tell me you been down that road too? Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, he called me KP. Oh yeah, KP, and this, that, and the other, that, this, and so we connected in a very strong way. Mm. And he was like, KP, I want you to come to these meetings. Back up a little bit. So I have the Rites of Passage program in the maximum security units at Juvenile Hall. Mm-hmm. And we're doing a graduation ceremony. And so I invite Baba Perkins to the ceremony. And this is another thing that really impressed me about it. It impressed me about the way he shows up. So he comes into the gathering, and we're inside Juvenile Hall, and into a system. We got about 20 guys up in there in our program, about 8 of them about to graduate. The first thing Arnold Perkins does is he puts on an apron and starts getting the food ready. I was like, look at this dude, man, he's cool. I was like, he's humble too. So he invited me to come into the Brotherhood. And let me just be honest with you. You guys ask me questions, I'm gonna answer them, man. I'm gonna answer them. When I first came into that room with the brothers, I didn't feel like I belonged there. I didn't, because to me, it seemed like a group of guys that were highly educated, very articulate, you know, and had all these wonderful things going on in their life, and I felt out of place.
Yeah, I get it.
But then this is his brother in there. His name is Baba Joe. Older guy, one of Arnold Perkins' best friends. Baba Joe started talking and cussing and getting loud, and I was like, oh, okay. I was like,
now you feel home.
I was like, okay, well maybe I hang around now. You know what I'm saying? Because he was spitting like, he was howling like, getting down like the cats I'm used to being around. Getting down. And Baba Perkins started doing it. I was like, okay, I'm gonna hang out. So, you know, then they started coming, supporting the Rites of Passage program and really getting involved in that. That was a wonderful thing. We started doing these retreats and like, you know, digging deep into some areas and some relationship building stuff. And I was really, really loving the Brotherhood, man. And what the Brotherhood kind of did for me, or what it extended for me, is like brought me like an extended family. You know, I have like brothers in there now. I got guys that are father figures. Like Baba P is like a daddy figure to me, man. He calls me all the time. He be talking a lot of shit too. But he's a good guy, you know, so I'm just saying, you know, Baba Cole, some of these guys have become like my brothers, you know, and it's like, it's good to have them around because sometimes I need to hear a different perspective. Yeah. I need to hear what they have to say, and I pay close attention. And, you know, they're very articulate, but sometimes they're just like me. They just bring it bare bones, straight from the cuff, you know what I'm saying? So it's a good situation, man. I think it's a powerful group to be with. I think there's a lot of good things that are happening in there and a lot of support network as well. So,
That's
yeah, I think
excellent. I'm glad the situation, I guess, changed from your initial reaction of, I don't know if this is for me, to no, this is my group now.
Yeah.
So I guess,
They know they received me, man. I've noticed I've done a couple of presentations in there about my work, and I could just be myself, and they welcome it, and it's cool. It's great, man. You know, so they got to know me, I got to know them, and they know how I do it, and you know, I'm welcome there. You know, I feel like I'm a real avid supporter and person of that group. You know, I even learned how to like pour libations, which is something that I wasn't doing until I got there. They honor the ancestors. I think that's a wonderful thing to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're still growing stronger and doing more and getting closer. You know.
Excellent. Well, that's an excellent thing. Just speaking about family, that makes me think of Brotherhood of Elders Network. And I'm curious, how has the Brotherhood of Elders Network impacted your life?
Oh man, it's been amazing. Just being able to be around, you know, Baba Cole and Baba Arnold and Baba Joe, Jim Hill, the folks who have been, you know, in those roles. And as I watch them continue to contribute things in the world, as I watch them age, I'm looking for lessons from that. You know, how am I taking better care of my body? How am I making sure that I'm doing something meaningful to me? I think I've grown from the brothers who are my age. We've been in rooms with each other where we've had, you know, just amazing experiences with each other. I remember a few years ago, Brother Zeph came to one of the Brother Manhood meetings, and we hadn't seen him in a long time. He had been gone, and somebody said, "Well, man, where you been?" He's like, "Oh, I've been in North Carolina." He was like, "Well, what were you doing?" It turns out that his ex-wife, the mother of his daughter, who was an adult at the time, got cancer. And she was really transitioning. She was very ill. And the daughter says to him, she wants to see you. Says this about him, right? And so he went to North Carolina. He dropped everything he was doing in his life and stayed with her and took care of her for like 6 months, 8 months. This is ex. And generally, most of us don't do that with ex-lovers, girlfriends, boyfriends, whoever, whatever we got. Exes are exes, generally, right? And so it was powerful because we said, well, why did you do that? He said, because she was still my friend. She was still my child's mom. And like sitting in that room and hearing a man, a real man, say, this is what real men do. That was powerful. For all of us sitting there. And it's been one of those moments where it's like, well, what does it really mean to be a man, a black man? What does it really mean to be a brother? What does it really mean to take care of the people that you say you love, right? And so I wouldn't trade those experiences for anything. The kind of experiences I've had with Rodney Brooks and Quayle and Howard and, you know, everybody who's been part of that cohort, we've supported each other. You know, like when my mom passed, in Arkansas, Quayle came home. Quayle Tudishin happens to be from Pine Bluff. Quayle went home and supported me through my mom's funeral. When his dad died, I did the same thing. I went to Pine Bluff, sat and listened to him talk about his father, you know, in that church. And so I think the relationships, it goes back to relationships. It's like the relationships that matter. And then with the younger guys, with you, Spencer, with Pendarvis, with Dean, Jason, you know, all of the brothers, the younger guys, Bankole, you know, with Rashid, like you all have been such an encouragement to me around, like you all are brilliant young men. Like I'm not worried about y'all. I'm worried about some of these other brothers out here, you know. But you all have been an inspiration to us because we see you doing things. We see you carrying this sort of mantle of what it really means to be a black man, to be compassionate, to be giving, to be loving, to not have that sort of false machismo thing going on, but actually be honorable young men. That matters. And I know it makes me feel like we're doing the right thing. It makes me feel like that the older brothers who have been working hard to make this happen, along with the rest of us, that they're not doing that work in vain. That they actually are doing something that when one day, a long time from now, when we're pouring a libation for them, that we won't be doing it out of habit, that we'll be doing it out of love. And I just think that how you all operate and how we bring in a younger set of men is gonna matter, because the biggest thing we can do is be role models for what that looks like. And I think that the storytelling that's happening with this project, the way that we have all interacted with each other, is what we intended when the Brotherhood got going. It's not so much always about volunteering or doing a program, or it really is about how we're in relationship with each other.
Well, I certainly appreciate you saying that, and I always like to think of steel sharpens steel. So you can learn from someone else. It's like, as you mentioned, you can learn from a younger generation. So it's just having that that cycle happen and just continuing that as things go forward.